Hello, hello all, hello. Hold on, let me get rid of the music. I've just been sitting here, uh, just having fun. Hello, can everybody hear me? I am going to be on these questions. So I have a question, sir, says Eddie. What does a rater slash VA consider a high dose of prednisone? Typically, we don't. It would be subjective. So I'm just getting into this, guys, because it's just straight questions and answers at this point in time. Actually, before I answer this question, Eddie, I'm going to say, hey, look, everyone, thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for all. Like, you don't have to donate on this one. I'm just going to say that right now. Please don't donate. You don't have to donate on this one. I'm being kind of lazy and just doing a Q&A. But I feel as though you guys deserve another Q&A. Because I wasn't good at the last one. So we're gonna do this way. Can everyone hear me? Is everything 10K by October? Yes. Can everyone hear me? Actually, somebody just give me a yes in the chat. I know there's a delay, so all right. I'm gonna just dive into this, hoping that it's got the yes. There we go. Okay, so raters don't the VA and the raters don't consider like the levels of prednisone. Like, we're not going 20 milligrams is not enough and 40 milligrams is. If we had that question, what we would do is we would defer back to the examiner and say, does it meet the criteria of, a high dose? I'm not sure what this is in context with, because we really don't go, unless you're talking about systemic therapies for skin conditions. That would be the only thing. Let me go up here and just start knocking these out. So, I ask you about original control date. Rich Rod, I'm going to need you context on that. Just a little bit of context. Sergeant Zombie, I'm service connected through Terra for hypothyroidism and mental health secondary. If I claim arterial sclerosis secondary to hypothyroidism, could that reopen my reduce my mental health? No, because what happens is each one of these are like an island. So hypothyroidism is the parent disability. Mental health is the child disability. It's a secondary to it. Because you're not doing the heart condition, I want to say this is arterial sclerosis or like CAD type situation, I want to say. Whatever this is, it's being secondary to the hypothyroidism, which means that it has nothing to do with the mental health. They're completely separate conditions. Okay. So if you want to further break down for that one based upon the specific diagnosis, actually, my answer holds true. So it should hold true. Because as long as you don't say, and my mental health is worse, then they won't bring it up. The VA can reduce sometimes, depending on what the circumstances are, but because this was granted secondary, they won't. They shouldn't do that. Good evening to everyone, by the way. I see all the good evenings here. What is up, everyone? I'm happy tonight. I am sick tonight, but I am happy. Aquadrazi, if IU is inferred was added to my claim, does that mean they are preparing to grant once they receive the 8940? No, that is not what they mean. What they're doing. Okay, so what this means, and please, if I sound salty, it's just because I'm sick and I've got a raging fever. What that means is you have met what the rater would consider the criteria to raise an unclaimed issue to issue. So we are going to send away for the 8940 to see if you're interested to have that particular IU situation addressed. Now, there are drawbacks with this. There's a reason why we give you the form to have you decide, and we don't just raise it to issue, because everything you write on that form is going to get an increase exam. So if you have, like, let's say PTSD at 70%, that's been a pretty common themed item that I've seen the last couple days, it's going to you're going to get an increase exam for it, because that's what the 8940 form does. Is it says, hey, look, my situation has gotten worse, so the VA is going to try to address it and see if we can give you a natural 100 by potentially increasing your things, or what's going to happen is, and stop giving the money. Thank you, but no, I said no money. I'm not at my best form. Fam man, thank you so much. 9.99. I appreciate it, but not needed or required. So we'll go back here. Stop giving the money. All right. So the 8940 form, that's one half of it. So if you have a particularly highly rated contention, just be careful of that, because you could potentially be reduced if during that increase exam, they found a different outcome. And I want to spend some time on this, because if you have any kind of exam, and not necessarily IU, under 5 years, I want to talk about the 5-year rule. So the 5-year rule, if you were granted for whatever conditions that you're claiming on the IU, and it's less than 5 years, the VA can use one single examination to reduce you. And if the reduction reduces the overall percent of your claim, if you go from like 80% down to 70%, then you get a due process period. We propose to reduce, so we give you a rating decision saying that we'll propose to reduce, and we'll give you 60 days, technically 30, but I mean, it does become 60 days, in which you get to try to prove the evidence wrong. Submit new evidence to show, no, I am still 80%. I should still be considered that. But if that exam that reduces you down doesn't change your overall percentage, you do not get that due process period. We will just automatically reduce you right then and there. So keep this in mind. Like, there will be no ability for you to fight it if it doesn't change your overall percentage. But the second thing, and I'm kind of rambling here tonight, but the second thing for the IU exam is, you can't just submit evidence and say, hey, look, I've got IU and my mental health is the same. We still will need to get you an examination, because for IU, it requires a separate medical opinion that has to do with your economic inadaptability, or actually that's for migraines, but your economic impact assessment is what it's called. And when we do that, we have to get you an exam, because every examiner will want to see what it is. Like, they're not going to attest to something unless they examine you, right? Even if you had an examination 30 days ago, no doctor is going to want to attest as to what your limitations for your ability to work are due to your disability without having done the examination. So this is kind of my impromptu IU video. I'm going to be doing a video on this, guys, so please keep that in mind. So we're going, okay, so Elias, I guess? I don't know. I'm horrible with names. Is it best to file for increase for SI joint dysfunction and sciatica, or as a secondary to service-connected lower back? Okay, so no matter how you claim it, if you do not have your radiculopathy or your neurological extremity conditions already service connected, you're going to get an increase exam for your back. It's just the way it is. That's the way the VA's been doing it for about less than a year now. Is they say that all initial neurological conditions stemming from the spine have to be done on a spinal DBQ, be it your neck and your arms, or your thoracolumbar spine and your legs. So you're going to get the increase no matter what. So dealer's choice on that one, because they're going to do it. They're going to get you the back exam no matter if you want to or not, no matter how recently it's been. Can you be reduced on mental health claim if medication helps? Okay, well, that's subjective, devil dog. Do you stop having the symptoms? I mean, if you still have the symptoms to where they check the box, right? Because if you've seen any of my mental health videos, it is literally checking a box. Severity doesn't matter. If the examiner checks the box, then the box is checked, and you're going to, if if you get less boxes checked to the point that you get reduced because you have gotten better, sure. But if you've gotten better, but the boxes still remain the same, then you're going to either be the same or potentially higher. Now, this is something like this is a reason why, Devil Dog, and I'm going to share something with you. So, this is a little bit of a tip, okay? Is I personally, in my life, had another examiner that I paid to do my mental health evaluation. I gave them all my records. I did a private DBQ. I'm not I'm not saying this because I'm not going to tell you to go to anybody specifically, but when I did it, the reason why I did it that way is because I wanted to see the DBQ. I wanted them to fill it out. So that way I could take my DBQ, look at it, and make sure that it didn't reduce me. That's one of the values added to doing private DBQs is that you can actually see, and I don't know why I'm not seeing my comments in real time. Hold on. Hold on. Show comments on the stage. Yes, there we go. I can actually see the comments now. Thank you. But that's the value added, and it's not just for mental health. I mean, if you have something that's above 0%, I typically, and I'm not talking about going out and paying somebody to do a DBQ. That's fine in certain situations, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's not fine. I'm not saying that it is fine. But if your doctor will do it, and stop sending the money. I said this earlier. Keith, you're awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. But no to the money, please. That's not why I did the live stream. It's to make up for my inability to answer you guys' questions last time. So the long story short on this is I like personally to have the private DBQs done so I can run them through my little system and see, because I can I'm really good at doing that. Just eyeballing it and seeing kind of like, okay, that'll retain its 70% or that'll do whatever. So just keep that in mind. And sorry. Okay, I got the answer. Okay, so I asked you about original control date on a claim that they granted, but had never applied before for the benefit, which was for SMC. Now I'm appealing it for, I want to say ED at the BVA. So if you're asking about the effective date, like when should the effective date have been granted for like a missed issue, like an SMC, that can be that's either going to be like the control date. Like, when would that be? It would depend on a lot of, like, okay, effective dates. The reason why I haven't done effective dates video is because not even the raters, not even 50% of the raters fully understand effective dates. I do. I mean, it's fine, but there's a lot of moving parts for it. It depends on how you were granted. If you were granted due to a liberalizing law, that can adjust your effective date. If you were granted based upon a supplemental claim, the date you were diagnosed and whether or not you had a continuously pursued claim, that can affect your effective date. So there's a lot of moving parts. So, Rich, send me an email on this, because it's not something I can answer in this many characters. Okay. BVA, that's fine. Like, you're fine to do that. But what's going to happen is, even if the BVA sides with you, you're still going to get moved back into the VA system, and you're actually going to be rated by a rater. So you fall within the same guidelines that probably fell short beforehand. So send me an email on that, okay? Just so that way I don't want to give you an answer that would be wrong. I want to have the most informed opinion on it, so that way I can give you the most right answer. I would feel bad if I gave you just a short answer. Okay, so is a second CMP exam for the claim disability a good thing or a bad thing? It's not okay. It depends on context, Mark. So if you were granted like, actually, hold on. If you haven't had a rating decision for it and they're sending it back, it's a mixed bag. It could be good or bad. It could be good in the fact that the rater caught something that would have shortchanged you. It could be bad that the rater um, is sending it back because you got too much of a good thing, right? Or it could be due to insufficiencies, like the examiner didn't necessarily, um, fill out the or complete the examination correctly. So it's a wait and see thing. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's a wait and see thing because if you try to speculate on this, um, now here's what you could do. Actually, hold on. Let me solve the problem. Go to a VSO. Have them look at the claim notes and the deferral. There will be a deferral. So if you go into the VBMS section, and my dog's over here snoring, if you go into the VBMS section and you have them go in there and they look at the deferral tab, then they can see why it was deferred. So I know that me telling you to go to a VSO is probably not the best answer in the world because it takes a while to get into them. But if you have like an open door policy with a VSO, go to them and have them look there for it because that way you can figure out why they're deferring it, and that'll tell you whether or not it's a good or bad thing. Thank you for the question. Okay, Tyrell. Why would the VA schedule an ACE exam with the same provider for the same condition a week after an in-person exam? Okay, so this right here, ACE exams don't matter. Okay, guys, I'm just going to tell you this right now. ACE exams are required. We have to give them the option for ACE exams 100% of the time, unless it falls under the category of a Gulf War Gen Med, a general medical, a mental dental specialist exam. Like those are the only times that we can't, like a vision exam, something where they have to physically see the person. We have to give the examiners the option for ACE. So I just want to say that up front. It being ACE or not ACE doesn't matter. Now, why would they schedule another exam with the same provider? Because there were deficiencies with the examination. That's why. The exam got deferred back to the same examiner so that way it can be corrected. That's the most likely reason. There is some kind of deficiency with the examination. Now, they didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because it's more concerning if they didn't find something and the error got missed. Now, them sending it back, the same thing that I told to Rich, or I think it was Mark, actually. Go to the VSO, double check why it was deferred, because that's your terminology you want to link onto when you talk to the VSOs. You want to figure out why it was deferred for the examination, and that'll tell you whether or not it was good, bad, or indifferent. Okay. Okay, Bohiny. Okay. What exactly does presumptive mean? So presumptive means it means that the condition and context of how you're claiming it. So like if it's due to exposure or it's typically due to exposure or it's due to a certain time period. But it means that there's no requirement for there to be a medical nexus or a medical link because there's so much scientific evidence to support that there's a medical link that the condition doesn't have to be proven that it was caused by the military. If the condition either under 38 CFR 3.309A manifested within the certain time period after service, or you had, like, let's say, exposures to Camp Lejeune and you had a qualifying disability, or you were exposed to burn pits and you had sinusitis, there's certain regulations that say, look, you don't need to prove this because it is so common. Like there's so much science behind this that it is proven that there is a connection. But to answer your question, if the condition is truly presumptive for the quality of service that or the type of service or the type of theory that we're talking about, then you do not need a medical nexus at all. That is already proven. Like let's use sinusitis and burn pits. The only thing that you need to bring to the table is I have chronic sinusitis diagnosed and I went to a place that qualifies under 38 CFR 3.320 for fine particulate matter exposure. That's all. You would only need 2 out of the 3 requirements because the VA secretary has deemed that the 3rd requirement is not needed because it's presumptive. So that hopefully that answers that question. Yeah. Oh man. How does a retired reservist gather LHI health records? Oh, from the examiner? Like, I mean, I guess you could do once those records hit your VA documents section, you could do a FOIA request. If you're talking about LHI in terms of the medical contractor, the VA contractor. It wouldn't have anything to do with you being a reservist, though. So, oh God, Olmsted F. If that's not what you're talking about, shoot me an email. Okay. If you're talking about something else, if I'm getting my LHIs mixed up, like you're not talking about the VA contractor, let me know. Dean, I'm just going to pull you out of the chat here. If diagnosed within 1 year of discharge of active duty with bipolar with psychosis, could that be a presumptive service connection? Yes, it could, Dean. Dean Winchester, yes. As long as you meet the criteria for psychosis, yes. And it's not something that most VSOs or most attorneys, the theory is 38 CFR 3.309A. They don't understand it, okay? So keep that in mind. And it's not their fault. It's just, it's very uncommon. It took me a couple years after like becoming a rater to fully grasp it. And so just to keep that in mind. My claims were in Togus, then deferred for an independent medical opinion for Tara and medical opinion. Now my claim is in Seattle, starting over again at stage 3 evidence. Is this normal? Okay, so CB vet. Yes, it is, but it's not normal in a good way. Okay. Because however you claimed it originally has been denied. The only reason, unless you claimed it for Tara, but if it was deferred for Tara, then that means that whatever you claimed it for was denied. So the rater pivoted to whatever other theories that were potentially possible to claim the condition under as kind of a fallback secondary. Okay. Like I don't mean like secondary to something else. I mean I don't want to have to deny him. And the duty to assist requires us to have to like pursue all potential theories for service connection. Okay. So it is normal, but you're losing ground is how I would say it. I'm not trying to scare you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that once it got deferred back, it got given to Seattle to potentially schedule new examinations for it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Oh, Sin City J. If you are 100% PNT and get surgery on a service-connected condition, in what cases would you be reevaluated? Well, if you don't tell the VA that you got your surgery, they're not going to know, nor will they care. Because hospitals typically we'll get what is known as an EP 310. And that's a hospital report of a surgery. Like if you had your surgery at the VA itself, they will send it to you. Then what happens is that a VSR will review it and they'll review to say, okay, is the veteran 100% already? Yes. Then there is no value added to pursuing this. And then they will close the EP 310. Now, EP 310s typically happen at the first of the month. Okay. And oh my gosh, with this, hold on just a second. Okay. Jarhead, what's going on, dude? I told you not to do this kind of stuff. Jarhead gifted five memberships. And then Humble Hater gave $10. And then M Mill. And hold on, Sin City. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop giving the money, guys. I mean it. I'm supposed to be answering your guys' questions. You guys gave me money last time. I gotta earn the money, guys. Come on. So I received 30% for migraines. Examiner checked all the boxes for 50%. Watched your video about how it's subjective. Where do I go from here? Even a work log doesn't prove migraines cause them. Okay, it doesn't, but like you said, you've got the examiner in your pocket. They've already agreed with you that you're 50%. The person that you've got to work over to, I don't mean work over, but the person you've got to impress in this circumstance is the rater. So if you're going to appeal it, you have to come up with some kind of new evidence showing economic inadaptability. Now, that could be, reasonable accommodations, changing in light, anything like that. So just please know and understand that you have to. Sorry, I'm sick, guys, so I gotta blow my nose. That you have to provide, number one, for the supplemental, you have to provide some kind of new evidence that wasn't part of the prior rating decision. So that's the first hurdle. Anything can typically count as evidence to satisfy the fact that the claim should remain open, but I would kill two birds with one stone and just get your boss to write a letter for you or something like that. Like anything that can show, like work log work log doesn't, like you said, prove that migraines cause them. But if you can have a buddy statement from your boss who, or somebody in a position of authority in your job say that, yes, we've had to maybe counsel you, or yes, we've noticed that that the migraines have caused some inadaptability. Use different words like some loss of production, to the point that we've had to work around it. Typically, the severe economic inadaptability means that the migraines creates a barrier to your ability to work that you have to work around. And you have to show the rater how you're working around it. Like I've had to, I don't know, wear sunglasses. I've had to take different shifts at, working night shift with the fluorescence isn't ideal or whatever it is for your job. But yeah. And then, Vic Mad became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. Once again, stop doing this, guys. All right, let me go up here and I'm going to try to get where I was. That's the only thing I don't necessarily like about this program is that it doesn't necessarily give me where I was beforehand. I wish it did that. Okay, so Felix called me hater last time. I felt bad. It hurt my feelings. My family laughed though. So we all got a good laugh about it. So thank you, Felix, for that. I appreciate that. When I see a prompt in my claims portal that says I need to submit evidence in 30 days, but VA rep says I don't need to do so, what does this mean? It typically means that the system has sent out some kind of um, supplemental development form. It depends on the context of it. Okay. So, what is the context? And my dog's over here snoring. What is the context specifically? Yes, I knocked on the desk. Stop it. Stop snoring. You guys are loud. What is the context of what you claimed? Because there are certain situations, like if you're talking about PTSD and we're trying to do stressor development, that is a critical thing that must be answered. Versus, hey, look, we want to know how, you were exposed to asbestos. I mean, not necessarily, it can be important to update your Terra, but it might not be the most important thing. So you might want to just ask the VA rep to tell you explicitly what it is that what they sent you, right? And you should receive it in the mail. I mean, if they told you that you need to submit new evidence, you're going to be told what evidence in the mail it is. So, yeah. Is this NASDAQ NSDQ 23? Okay. Not to get too deep, but just started seeing a psychiatrist for the first time, mental health claim. How long should I wait before I submit a claim? Typically, I'll be honest with you, 3 sessions. I'm just pulling a number out of my bottom right now, but 3 sessions minimum. And the reason why is because if somebody's diagnosing you before 3 sessions, then that is at best can be a provisional diagnosis. Okay. Um, what is with the number? Stop it. Okay. I'm just going to mark this real quick. And then hold on. Okay, Dangerous Dawn. Thank you for the 1999. You didn't have to do that, and I'm gonna keep saying it. You guys don't have to do this. Like, I'm not fishing for compliments or nothing. I'm saying that I owe you guys a good Q&A. So yeah, no. And then same thing with you, Gary. I am loving the way you present the info and how you give us insight into the VA's inner workings regarding the rating process. Thank you for stepping out and being willing to be a YouTuber. You know, what, I am. There's one line so I have the PACT Act SOP, but I don't want to show it to you guys because it would get me into trouble. Like they would come after. It says do not distribute. But if I had Doug Collins' ear, I want to know why we can't see that. Why I can't see that when I'm not logged into the computer. Like why you guys can't see the PACT Act SOP if it would be like saying, "Hey, look, here's you can claim direct, but we're not going to give you any of the manual references that tell you how to claim direct effectively." And I hate that. But and stop with this. Okay, but I'll answer the question. Thank you for your support. Always, guys, thank you for the support. I mean, like this is overwhelming to me. Um because I'm just a guy that likes to talk about I take a lot of pride in the VA process. Not actually, hold on, let me say that differently. I take pride in helping my fellow veterans. I do not take pride in the weirdness that is the mental gymnastics of the VA process. I do not take pride in that. I take pride in pointing out how to be helpful within it and how to overcome it. But yeah, I don't take any credit for the process. It's kind of horrible. I can still tell you on the low zombie. Yeah, I still can. I filed multiple claims, got a decision. Some of them were granted, but the most important sleep apnea was close. I want to say closed without a decision or deferral for sleep apnea. What should I do next? I have a CPAP. Okay. So we need to figure out why it was closed without a decision. That closure could have been an error. It does happen. Like closing an EP, an end product, consider a claim like an end product. So your supplemental claim is an EP 040 versus your increased claim would be an EP 020. And sometimes what'll happen is you will get VSRs that don't know what they're doing and have no business working there, but it'll take about a year to figure that out. Um, and what happens is they'll close your claim erroneously. So if you don't have a rating decision for it, I mean, is it relatively recent? If it is, then you might want to wait just a week or two and then go to a VSO and figure out if we can, because there's usually notes whenever they close things like that. They have to put in a claim closure note. I would figure out why it was closed because that's more of a mystery to me than the fact that you weren't granted, like because when the VA starts doing things that are outside of the normal process, that's when I start pointing towards the higher level review thing is because when we can't justify why the action was taken within the manual, then you have grounds to go, okay, well, why did they do that? There's nothing that tells them they have the authority to do that action right there. Anyway, thank you guys for all the support and all the stuff. But yeah, once again, you don't have to do that. Let me go up here. Okay. Nope. That's not it. All right. Sean Deegan. I'm a combat PTSD service connected, just diagnosed with OSA, just under the obese BMI. How strong is a connection to sleep apnea secondary to PTSD? Okay. Connection is in the eye of the beholder. So if you have an examiner that they were trained that they believe in the neurological connection, they believe in, like, let's say, I say this all the time, but PTSD night terrors that happen, nocturnal night terrors that raise your level of consciousness to the point that your automatic breathing turns off. Like if you can get a neurocognitive, like pro neurocognitive, like provider to do your exam, which good luck, because we can't choose who we're going to have, but it is possible. Now, let's say they say no. What's the remedy? The remedy is to submit new evidence and get it in front of a different set of eyes. because I don't know if you noticed, but there are people that have been service connected for OSA secondary to just PTSD, and you were denied for it. The only difference is the perspective of the person that's doing the medical opinion. So the natural remedy is to get it in front of a different set of eyes. How I would do that is I would submit with your new claim, your supplemental claim, new evidence, right? Like maybe something from your doctor. It doesn't have to be exact and take you over the edge, but you want to also submit a 4138 and say, hey, look, I don't, maybe I went through QTC beforehand. Maybe I don't want to go through QTC again because I don't want the same set of eyes saying no again. Maybe I want to go through VES or LHI or somebody like that. So that's my suggestion. But it's a mixed bag, Sean. Unless you're dealing with a presumptive condition, there's no like it literally is dealer's choice on, whether or not you had a bad presentation during the examination or whether or not they have a bias against the theory that you're doing. It could be one of the two. All right, moving on. Scott Bertram. If I am claiming multiple conditions, for instance, PTSD, combat stressor, and headaches and sleep apnea secondary to PTSD, can I claim them all together? Yes, you can. Now, there are some potential there's some mild drawbacks with this, but I mean, we're talking that you'd have to get a very specific set of incompetencies applied to your development portion of your claim. So, if I mean, it's fine. Actually, I'm just going to go with it's fine. I'm not going to even go into the inner working nonsense of how somebody could just mess up so badly. Yeah, it's fine. Yes, doing this is appropriate because VBMS has the ability to actually select secondary. Please provide a secondary medical opinion, and then we can do it for claimed conditions and not service connected conditions. So that way the examiner knows that they're making it for a claimed condition. Actually, it doesn't actually make that distinction, so there's no way for them to tell. It makes a distinction for the VSR and for the rater, but not for the examiner. So anyway, yeah, you're fine, Scott. You're fine. Final answer. All right, Mark, again, in a second CMP exam for the claim disabilities, a good thing or bad thing? Oh, wait. Yeah, I already answered this. Can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Okay, CRW. Question: is there a way to demonstrate knowledge and judgment of law and policies to rapidly become a DRO? No. It has nothing to. Okay, actually, so if you're asking as you want to become that job, okay. If you wanted to become, it depends on what job are you in right now. If you put it in the chat, CRW, if you put in what are you a VSR? Are you a rater? Or are you just asking in general? Because if you were a VSR, I would say become a character of discharge SME. That's one of the that's something that actually helps on a resume to become a rater because you actually make determinations based upon the character of discharge. So being a rater means you have to demonstrate that you are able, it strengthens your resume whenever you have that particular SME duty, that additional ancillary duty of character of discharge to me. When you're a rater, becoming a TBI, I would say becoming a TBI SME or being an MST coordinator, an MST rater, would give you a little bit, maybe a leg up, just because you're making more complex decisions than the average rater does. So that and maybe like an ALS one. Also, being a QRT liaison helps, just because you're going in and teaching other people the manual, and that's part of the job they do. I hope that answered the question, CRW. Hey Jeff, how are you doing? Charles Bender, what do most raters want to see to avoid symptom reassignment on MUCMI's claims when migraines, depression are already service connected? I'll be honest with you. Um, Nobody's ever came to me. No other raters ever came to me with this question because most of the time they don't care. I don't want to say it like that. I want to say most of the time it's not relevant to rating the claim because in the MUCMI situation, we are just data entry specialists. Whatever the checkboxes say to put in, we put in. We don't get to overrule that particular one because MUCMI is speculation incarnate. Okay, because MUCMI is there's no other potential cause of it. Now, if I look through the evidence and I see where another doctor, maybe in their Capri records or something like that, their VA MC records, maybe the doctor says, well, I think that their chronic fatigue is actually due to their hypothyroidism. Now, in that circumstance, that would be conflicting evidence that I would need the examiner to account for. So I would defer it back and have the examiner. Did I skip you? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. No, I didn't skip you guys. I just haven't gotten low enough yet. Yeah, no, I didn't skip you. Oh wait, you said the word yes. I mean, that's so far the only thing. Anyway, I'll try to get to it. But anyway, so yeah, so for MUCMIs, that's the only time that we would ever step in on that. Other than that, the rating of MUCMIs is on rails. So whatever the examiner goes with, we're kind of like, sure, whatever. Because it's unexplained. So they just tell us that it's unexplained. All right, John Cena, celebrity. Love to have you here. I had a higher level review this AM, like 6 a.m. for a duty to assist, was already in there 2 hours later. Is that normal? It can be. Yeah. If there was a quality review error. So, okay. So you put in the higher level review, but it looks like we already caught it on a QMS review. So a quality review for the rater. If we put it in for the rater, then the rater got an error for prematurely rating your claim before they ran down the other theories for service connection. That's what this would mean right here. Fiesta RC, I would not do that, but that's just me. No large claim packages at the end of the year. You might as well just douse it in kerosene. Kent Griever had a CMP exam with denial, filed higher level review, and was awarded a DTA error. Okay, that statement is not true. You were found to have a DTA error, but you were not awarded. You have to watch out for that word because that'll throw me off. Just VA terminology throws me off. Had a new CMP exam next week. How can I make sure the examiner has all the evidence? Okay. Well, the first thing, Kent, and this is important, guys. Like, this is important for everybody. Okay. Anytime that you have a higher level review, you should always ask them if they find a DTA error, what error would they find, and can they tell you about it? Right? If they see something right off the bat. Now, if they don't, you have to schedule an appointment with a VSO to look at the 0999 form to see what it is that the DRO took issue with. What theory are they going back for? Because you can strengthen your evidence, but there is no additional evidence that is given, Kent. So this is the problem with a DTA error. People seem to think, and this is fine, okay, I'm not being judgy or nothing like that. So they think that a DTA error gives them a higher likelihood of success. However, when they change the theory, like they adjust to the new theory and they get a new exam, they don't give you a due process period to submit new evidence, nor do they tell you what it is that you're going for. So you walk into that exam blind, completely blind, and the examiner doesn't get any new evidence to reinforce this new theory that we're attempting. So you have to be on top of things, guys. Like, you have to be like really quick, and going into a higher level review, you need to know that you're like, if they give you a DTA, you need to pivot. Your evidence needs to pivot also, but you need to find out what they're changing it to. Okay. Because if you don't know what they're changing it to, then you're at a very big disadvantage for proving the 51% capacity, because you don't know if you're going to say something that detracts from the 51%. Okay. So I'm making a big deal about this, right? Like, you guys need to be on top of this. I get the fact that these claim companies and stuff, and I am on the warpath with them currently, but they'll just be like, yeah, send in a higher level review. But they don't tell you the subtle nuances because they don't understand the subtle nuances. Because when's the last time you filed a higher level review and you were told, number one, what it was for? And number two, they gave you time before the examination to present new evidence for this new theory. I just, I don't know. But you gotta arm yourselves, because nobody's gonna do it for you. Okay. So if you're gonna do a higher level review, I might prepare a VSO if you're working with them and just say, hey, look, I got a higher level review coming up. I might need a short notice ask from you to look up in my file for an 0999 form and just say what's on there, right? Tell me what they're switching it to so I know what to submit. Because what'll happen is, if you have your exam, right? Like, before you have your exam, the VSR will look at all the evidence of file. So if you're quick enough to submit that evidence before they order the exam, you can get that evidence in there. And even if you're not, the rater can go, "Oh, wait, I see there's new evidence here. This could be, this could change the outcome of that exam. So I'm going to send it back for a new examination to have the examiner consider all this new evidence." Sorry, guys. I know I ranted about that one, but it's but a pecan. Okay, at Radar HQ, listening to previous videos of yours, and you referenced Eiler and Terra report. If we are not working with a VSO and awaiting C file, how would you get a copy? You can't. You can't. These are locked behind. Like, these are super secret locked in your. I mean, maybe public contact, maybe, and that's hit or miss. So each regional office has a public contact department to which you can submit claims to, and you can do things. Well, sometimes if they're really, really nice and you're really, really persuasive, they'll give you copies of your records. There's no guarantee on this, guys. No guarantee at all. Okay. Not at all. But your Eiler report can also change. I've seen them change. And your stupid Terra memo gets updated like, I've seen claims with 7 of the things in there. Sometimes because, yes, we get new evidence of, like, the veteran will submit a new Terra or something like that and we update it. But most of the time, it's the VSR and the rater trying to chase points. Okay. And they're trying to chase them so that way they can, get more points to do less, get more points from doing less work. Redoing the Terra memo gets them 0.7 points for a VSR and 0.62 for a rater. And that can be a lot, especially if you're a newer VSR and you only have to get 4.8 points. Getting 0.7 from just redoing something is pretty darn easy and lazy. All right. I have come to you now. YTU. My dentist wrote a medical opinion for teeth grinding due to the service-connected condition of anxiety, but I have not gotten anxiety service-connected yet. Will this help or hurt me? Okay. So there's a few things here. Okay. And I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Teeth grinding itself is called bruxism. Bruxism is not a disability for VA purposes. You cannot be granted for teeth grinding. What'll happen is you will be combined. If they grant the anxiety, then they will say anxiety with bruxism. There's no separate service connection for it. Now, where this changes is if you have TMJ, temporomandibular joint disorder or disease or whatever it is, where your jaw hurts to chew type situation. If you have that, you can secondary that to anxiety and grinding your teeth. You can use the bruxism as an intermediate step, but bruxism itself is not a disability. It's not in the 38 CFR Part 4, not in the scheduler rating at all. But TMJ can be. TMJ. There's multiple Oh, sorry, Kent. I see that now. Sarcasm is hard for me to pick up in this fast-paced environment. Mark Davies is a is a secondary exam for the claimed disabilities a good thing or bad thing? What is AUD? Can you put that in the chat right now? Is it what do you mean by AUD? Don't make me Google it. You're gonna make me Google it. It's not an acronym that I'm AUD medical. Alcohol use disorder. Okay, we call it SUDS, substance use disorder in the VA. So actually, what's weird is substance use disorder can be secondary to mental health. It's weird, and it requires somebody to with the dang thing here. Okay. Sorry, somebody just donated more money, and I've told you guys not to do it. All right. So alcohol use disorder can be secondary. It's a complex claim. You're going to want somebody to help you out with that, okay? Because you have to show how it's a symptom of the primary disorder. Um, yeah, it's a little bit more complex. So maybe shoot me an email. All right, Jeff. Raider, I've been going through old medical records and have assessments and treatment plans for conditions, but I don't see an ICD-10 code. Not important. Not important. Diagnosis is the only thing. Okay. Would the VA still consider evidence? Yes. Yes, we would. In a heartbeat. You don't need an ICD-10 code. I only know ICD-10 codes because I was in the medical field. Raiders don't care about it. Examiners don't care about it because they make their own diagnosis, and the ICD-10 process is outside of the VA's jurisdiction, so they don't even use ICD-10 as any kind of thing. But thank you for the $10. I appreciate it. It's always welcome. It's always appreciated. But once again, guys, not required. I'm happy to provide this stuff for free. For free. Okay, so let me see here. Where am I? Okay, Jarhead, the awesome guy. Question: getting ready to file a supplemental claim for GERD secondary to PTSD. Okay, strong claim there. If I also have IBS that is noted on DBQ, can that be awarded even without a diagnosis? No, that cannot be. You would need a diagnosis. Element 1 is permanent. Element 1 for every single theory is always a current diagnosis of a chronic disability at the end of the day. Now, to get an exam, you just need symptoms. But to get in the... What the hell? Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to finish this question, and I'll come to you guys here in a minute and scold you each individually. So you would need IBS to have a diagnosis. Now, yes, I would always go with the Gulf War. If you have Gulf War as an option and you have IBS, that is a presumptive condition if the symptoms pan out to be IBS itself or one of the subcategories of IBS. Then we would treat it just like IBS, and you're good for the 10, 20, 30% range. So I would pivot to the Gulf War opinion on that. Now, as to the GERD cannot be Gulf War because it's a structural disability. But just to make sure, and I will say this, I'm going to ramble a little bit here. If you're GERD, make sure that your dates line up, that you have a diagnosis of PTSD prior to having the diagnosis of GERD. It's going to seem stupid, but it's always good to point that out to the examiner. And just when you're kind of telling them your story, your medical story of how your condition manifested, you want to point out clearly that, hey, look, I had my PTSD diagnosis. It happened at this time. Subsequently, for whatever reason, the only thing that changed was me having PTSD, my severe anxiety, my severe whatever, right? But if these dates don't line up, that's going to be an instant denial. So you want to make sure, and I always say this, never ask a question that you don't already know the answer to. Okay, so never walk into these blind. Always be the subject matter expert on your own your own treatment records. So that way they can't go, well, yeah, but you had it yesterday. No, I didn't. Nope. Page 17 right here. No, I've got this right here. I hate to be like that, but sometimes, uh, Tim, I've got like hundreds of emails. I'm doing my best. And I've been sick. So Tim, I'll get to you soon. I promise. I'll try to look it up. Okay. Now, on to the other things. Antonio, there's a part one. Have a higher level review for non-combat mental health due to having an unknown medical problem for 1.5 years. Then med boarded during that time. I was treated like stuff. I was treated like stuff. This is a family show. I'm joking. But never reported it. Dr. Sharma wrote a Nexus and DBQ, but the VA wants more. Now, okay, I don't know if the VA wants more. So Antonio, I want to kind of maybe lead you back to my one of my prior videos. I don't remember which one it was, but if you're going to do a higher level review, and Dr. Sharma wrote the Nexus and the DBQ, they had to be deemed insufficient. Now, the thing that I would be focused on during my higher level review is whether or not that insufficiency determination was, if all the process was followed, all the policy and procedures about it were followed. Because that is good grounds to have a DRO instate Dr. Sharma's medical nexus and DBQ at face value. If they weren't, if they were discounted for no reason other than the prejudice of the rater, then that is something the DRO can instantly overturn. The rater doesn't even need to get involved. The DRO can just do it. They can confirm or they can actually rate the claim as is, with the private DBQ and the private medical opinion. But let's say that it isn't sufficient. Well, I would want the DRO in that higher level review conference to tell me what part of it was insufficient. Then I would go back to Dr. Sharma and I would actually say, hey, look, they said that this portion was insufficient. The DRO did, right? And the reason why I want the DRO to do that is because I want the DRO to report to me what was lacking on that DBQ. So you can correct it and then get a new one that corrects that deficiency and then submit it and then cite the transcript from your higher level review and say, hey, here's my supplemental claim from my higher level review. They said that this was the only thing that was missing. I have corrected it. Please accept my DBQ. Because you can use the DRO's words against them. Okay? You can use the DRO's words as a placeholder for this is all that you said was wrong and I fixed it. So this should be fine. Now, either that DRO is wrong or whoever's saying that this one's wrong is wrong. And then just do a higher, you kind of lock them in and narrow them down. CH Tim, you get it. There's usually a transcript that's with, you'd have to go to a VSO or do a FOIA request or something like that. But they typically write out, they have a transcript that uploads with their 0999 sometimes. But you cannot do, Antonio, you cannot do a higher level review on a higher level review. You can't. That's why you have to have a supplemental claim follow the higher level review in which you fix the issues. And then let's say that they deny that one. Then you can do a higher level review on that subsequent supplemental claim. Okay. It's like a knife fight, guys. You got to get intimate with them. You got to get, and I'm not condoning violence in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying you got to get intimate. You got to use their words. You got to, that's how, if that's what the claim companies don't understand. They want to go high tier, highbrow, and claim, was it case law? Yes, case law, Buffy. There's case law. No, you want to get down there and say, Johnny said this. If that ain't true, then it's either true or untrue. Which is it? If it ain't true, then grant me based upon my DBQ, my private DBQ and my private nexus. If it is true, tell me why so I can fix it. Give me the opportunity to fix it. And I don't know. That's it. But Antonio, thank you for the donation. It's going to help maybe get me a less squeaky chair. We're hoping, we're praying. Okay, Jeremiah T, $10. Appreciate it. Always appreciated, never required, guys. Once again, I submitted a supplemental claim, was denied by the VA. CMP examiner VES marked me absent even though I was present. What should I do? I should file a supplemental claim, and you should say that you are willing to attend the examination. And then just resubmit all the evidence that you submitted previously. Report that you provide good cause for. I know you didn't not attend the exam, but they said you did, so you just need to say, hey, look, I had good cause. I mean, you could do a higher level review and but it would just lead to them just doing an exam like normal. Like, it wouldn't be anything, not a big deal. But yeah, you could send in another supplemental claim, and it's not proof of attendance, it's proof of desire to want to attend the exam that you would need. All right, so let's see here. Let's go back up here. Okay. Good evening, Rare. You're amazing. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you. Quick question, and then you stopped. I guess it'll be later. Imperium. How much evidence do I need when submitting a supplemental claim? Example, I have 100 pages of evidence from the VA to back up my claim. Okay. What are you trying to prove? This is the level of insight that you need to have when you have your claims, right? There are 3 separate elements that must be satisfied for a rater to grant. What's your strongest one? Is it the fact that you have a current diagnosis? I mean, if not, then if you don't have evidence to show that you have a current diagnosis, then the remedy for that is to show that you have evidence of a current diagnosis. If you're trying for the direct theory of service connection and you were denied due to not having an in-service event, injury, or like treatment or diagnosis, then the evidence needed, 100 pages, 10,000 pages, 1 page would just need to show that you have some kind of in-service event that happened. You could have had a parachute injury or something to that effect. It's very specific to why you were denied. The evidence has value if it proves or disproves the reason for denial. Now, typically, you shouldn't need 100 pages to prove that. In fact, it can detract from your claim. And I know that the short form narratives are genuinely horrible. I get that. They usually just say, hey, look, you have a favorable finding that you have a diagnosis of this date at this time at this place. Fair enough. But if it's element 3, like the no continuity, I want to say correlation. It's continuity or nexus between, the current manifestation and the in-service event or whatever you're claiming it under. If that's the case, then how do you prove that? Is I typically get my doctor or a doctor to say that there is a link between the things, how I'm claiming them. That's new evidence. Now, it might not be new evidence to be a slam dunk to get you the service connection on its face, but it'll get you a new exam. And I always say this, get a different provider to do your exam. Never use the same one twice that denied you, because they're inclined to continue to do it because they don't want to buck their buddy, right? Or you'll get the same person, because here's the problem. When we get you an exam, we use your address, so your zip code, to put into the ERA tool, and it spits out this oh yes, use QTC. Well, you're typically region locked to use QTC or whomever does whatever they do, whichever company comes up the most or has the most providers. And that might not be the best answer because you'll keep getting the same person. I don't know how many of you have had the same examiner do your claim twice, but it's maddening whenever they suck. Zombie, I recommend a higher level review if you can point to some kind of law, rule, or regulation that the rater did not apply in your claim. That's the only time that I will give you a higher level review that I think that it should be done. Mark. Okay, I already answered that. Okay. In regards to no touchy, that's going to be a thing, isn't it? Policy, when asking the VA for a condition, for example, 100% PNT, how can they review your case for a reduction if they are so far on the backlog? Do they get an incentive? No. Okay. Do you want the real answer? I'm actually going to look in chat, the live chat, for you guys to tell me this. Do you want my real opinion on this, or would you like me to give you a general, just a general opinion about it, or would you like my true, honest answer on it? I'm waiting in the chat. I'll wait and see. Okay, somebody said yes. All right. So the VA loves the fact that they're doing claims really fast right now. So there has been some what I would call underhanded, some dirty, greasy practices in the VA, because I, as a rater, have a quota. I have an individual quota. My coach has a quota based upon all of the individuals in his team. So the VSCM manager has a quota based upon the entirety of the VSC. The RO itself has a quota to get a certain number of claims done. And you get ranked nationally. The RO does, based upon how many claims they do in a month. And if you're in the top 10, you get special things. Like you get your particular RO can get consideration for special projects that keep your guys busy and keep claims in your queue and keep the number of employees up so you look good. Top 10, right? Being in the top 10. My RO was in the top 10. My RO was in the top 10 for quite some time. But yeah, but now it's just scuzzy. It's like this. I'll give you an example. Higher level review. Guess what? Every time you guys do a higher level review, guess what happens? The VA gets points for 2 claims being done. The first points they get is they get it for when the DRO makes their decision. And let's say they find a duty to assist error. And there's no likelihood that you're going to get granted for it, but they still call the duty to assist error. Do you want to know why they do that? They do that, number one, I want to be hopeful that they do it because you deserve it and it's your right to have it done because it's part of the duty to assist. However, I think they also do it because then the RO in question gets points for the second claim that is done. So the VA gets to erroneously somehow, like let's say you claim something, right? You claim your back. You claim it on a 526EZ and they deny it. Oh, they got points for that. Then you do a supplemental claim. They get points for that. So that's 2 claims done, right? Then you do a higher level review on that. Well, then they do a duty to assist error. So for that back condition that should have been granted potentially originally, let's say, but somebody just screwed up multiple times, that's 4 claims that they get points for. Not to mention if they call a quality error in the middle of that, which somebody in the chat had said that, hey, look, I got a duty to assist error that was already in process before I filed my higher level review. Well, guess what? The VA gets points for 3 claims. And they didn't do 3 claims. You didn't file 3 claims. But the VA gets credit for it so they can look like they've done more claims than they've ever done in their entire existence on the planet. It's amazing, guys. So many claims. But it's not accurate. It's not that the veterans filed that many claims. It's not that the veteran, if the process was done right, I might argue that 1 or 2 claims would have sufficed. We didn't need to do 5 or 6 points of, different claims to do it, right? But that's the way it is. A higher level review gets them 2 points. So yes, they are happy when you do a higher level review, and they're happy to hand you whatever they feel like, because they get twice as many points. They get double the points And ROs like to pull higher level reviews. If you wonder why sometimes, hey, look, I didn't file a claim, but here's a magical authorization, or was it a what do they call it? There's two different ones. There's two different classifications for it, but it's like an reconciliation of evidence or something like that. Like there's two different types of EP 040 claims that you can get that you didn't create, but they just magically get created, right? Just happen to get created for some reason. Guess what? The VA gets points for that too. Just randomly reviewing stuff, huh? Most claims they've ever done in their whole life. Whole life over here. Yay. Let's be happy about that for a minute, guys. Let's be happy that we're doing whatever we're doing. Now that segues, and I'm sorry, but I'm probably not going to get to too many claims because I'm on a bender on this one. But then we come to QRT, AQRS, and RQRS. Mostly RQRS, right? Sometimes AQRS for the they're two different groups of QRT reviewers. They're the quality review team, or I call them quit really trying. And these individuals, when they do call a quality error on you, and let's say the claim's closed, then even if they call a frivolous error, let's say a frivolous one that doesn't matter, it won't change the outcome of anything that happens with your claim. You're still going to be denied after they require us to correct whatever it is they want us to correct. Well, guess what? We got to create an EP 930. And guess what? The RO gets points for calling frivolous errors. They get most claims ever, guys. Most claims ever. Ever. On the planet. 17 million claims done. Yeah. Frivolous errors that don't matter. Hey, we didn't give him the duty to assist. Hey, he doesn't have element 1. Or element 2 actually is the worst one, where you have no, like you claim something direct and you have no in-service treatment at all and nobody's disputing it. And they call an error because, hey, this could have been something. So then we open up this claim, we defer back. Like the worst one, okay. I don't know how many of you are familiar with like, and it's just going to turn into a rant now. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Reserve and National Guard and what IRR status is. Okay. Inactive Ready Reserve. It means that you are not part of the military, okay, at all during that time period. Like nothing counts. But you'll get these people who have never been in the military, that they're raiders, they're either QRT, they're whatever, and they'll be like, hey, their little nerdlinger thing, and they're like, oh, you know what? Could you please go and get this IRR records because this could really do something for the veteran. So I do my recons because we're allowed to overturn our errors. And I'm like, I apologize. Here's the manual reference that says IRR duty is not considered, like those don't count as STRs. The person could have like flipped a Humvee on top of themselves or ran over by a tank. It wouldn't be service connected because it doesn't have anything to do with service, right? But the QRT people, because they're so terrified of getting an error, they call a frivolous error. They make us open up another EP end product, which is, I was told to stop with the acronyms and explain them a little bit, so I'm going to do that. But we're told to do that, and they open up a quality review error, and then they make us fix it. And then we've got to delay the claim. We got to, number one, give you a false sense of security that you're getting like, oh my God, they're doing it. They're fixing it. They're doing the right thing. No, some idiot asked us to get STRs for being a civilian. And we're going to do it because they have the authority to make us do it. So then we're going to do that, and it drives me up the wall because the VA gets credit for it. Most claims ever, guys. Most claims ever. Okay, so I'm sorry. Nomad Mojo, I kind of hijacked your question there, but yeah. But no, see, that's the kind of thing. Like if you guys want to grinds my gears session, that's the false equivalency that doing more claims means we're doing more better for the veteran, more better gooder, okay? I disagree with that sometimes. I like the fact that we're doing AI stuff, and we're getting records faster to where, we don't have to delay the claim for 30 days in order to get records that the AI can just give us and hand us, and we can make decisions based upon it. I love that. That has improved things, but we've had that for years now. Like, that's nothing new. Like, I don't understand that, but that's a different rant. All right. Keith. Keith. I know, Luna. I know. Sorry. She doesn't like it when I get upset. VA diagnosed me with depression, anxiety, mood disorder from back and knee pain symptoms. Okay, so all right, somatic symptom disorder. Got it. Started in service, but barely documented. Should I file secondary to back or try for direct? Okay, I would do secondary. And the reason why I would do secondary is because your symptoms in the here and now are probably worse than they were in the military. So it's easier for an examiner to think in the here and now than it is to project back in time. Okay. When they project back in time, you make them have to go, okay, well, I don't want to look like an idiot. So I'm going to be really critical of this. Versus if, Keith, if you and I were in a room and you tried to explain to me how it sucks having chronic pain 100% of the time, every single day, and it's unrelenting, and it doesn't matter if it's 2 out of 10 pain, the fact that it doesn't relent drives me up the wall, then I'm going to be, like that's something that the layperson can even understand. So I would just keep it to the here and now, because that way you keep them in the here and now when they're making their medical opinion. And examiners are much more comfortable being in the here and now than they are trying to project, 5-10 years back, or however, what that looks like for you. Right. But they don't like doing that, because then there's doubt. There's no doubt that you're in pain right now. There's no doubt that you have anxiety and depression right now. Right. It's just whether or not there's something that's more probative or more that proves to be the etiology or cause more so than your back. Right? If you got into a car accident, let's say, and it wasn't due to service and it had nothing to do with your situation, or you broke your femur or something like that, that is causing you chronic pain more so than the service connected disabilities, that's where you would come into the examiner would have that torn conflict internally to try to prove or disprove. But if you don't have any of that going on, then you should be fine. Right? Like, you just have to present well, and you have to do, you got to do all the things you need to do to tell that, make that connection, make that nexus for them, and give them examples. I'm going to always say this, guys, give them examples. For mental health, the examiner can't manipulate your brain, right? It's not like an arm where they can actually have objective evidence to see, what it is, how far your arm can bend. There's no, how much resistance you're providing. Mental health examiners don't have that luxury. So you have to give them examples to actually, be able to think about in their mind and contrast with their training. Okay. There's no wrong answer here, but if you just honestly tell them, it's like, yeah, I can't pick up my kids and it makes me depressed all the time. I have chronic pain all the time, and that makes me depressed too. There's multiple facets to it, So anyway, that's it for that, Keith. Torch it up. Been out for 13 years, couple of OIF tours, never filed for anything, drank alcohol to cope, I think. Recently quit and having a hard time. I am a nurse at the VA. Caring for vets brings up a lot of memories. I worked for the VHA myself there for a while. I get that. And I, thank you for sharing that. Number one, torch it up. I appreciate that, because you know what? It's tough, and working with veterans can bring a lot of things up that are personal, and it can also bring a lot of things up that are new. I'll just be honest with you. I worked with a lot of nurses in the VHA, mostly in the BHIP side of things, because we had our nurses over there. But the job you guys do is so hard, and my hat's off to you. But I think you should file for stuff. I think you should. If you feel like it. If you don't feel like it, then, that's fine. But don't suffer in silence. Reach out if you need help, if you need anything. Felix, once again, you're killing me here, Felix, with this. Yeah. Okay. Torch it up. Okay. Thanks for these videos. It helps a lot. I start going down this path. Okay. And look, I'm going to be honest with you guys, right? I'm giving you my informed opinion, but it is just these videos are meant to hopefully guide you in the general direction. They're not absolutes, right? And if something doesn't work for you, I say there's a lot of moving parts with this, but I want to give you guys the most accurate information I humanly can, so that way you're the most informed, so you can make informed decisions and informed choices. Because I I'm sick of watching people getting taken for a ride. Now there's a lot of good organizations, good people out there. There's a lot of good out there, right? But there's a lot of bad out there. There's a lot of scuzzy out there. There's a lot of, and it's on the people with the ulterior motives, you know, that need you to be dependent on them. I don't want you to be dependent on me. I want to teach you. That's why I do 40-minute videos and I don't slice them up into, 10-minute videos, and just keep you clickbaiting, is because I want to teach you so that way you don't need me anymore and you don't need the bad actors. There are some good actors out there in this process, but there are a lot of bad actors out there and I don't want you to need them. Okay. But torch it up, hang in there, stay strong. Why is sleep apnea so subjective? Right now, it's so subjective because we're granting it like it's on sale. We're granting it so frequently that the VA has decided. Now, this is my personal opinion. We're walking right into a rant, guys. We're going back into another one. Okay. Think about it like a bell curve. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a bell curve, but when you're in school and you have the averages. Well, the sleep apnea is throwing off the curve, okay? And the VA don't like it. And that's why they want to change it, is because too many people are getting granted for it and it's knocking those numbers way higher than what they should be, right? And it's just, that's what it is. Couple that with the fact of just train wreck training, and people are grabbing onto anything that they can understand to not get an error. Okay, that's the mentality of the VA employee right now, the VBA employee that's related to the claims process. They're trying not to catch an error because they're fearful that they're going to lose their job. Hell, beforehand, I'll agree that things needed to change because you had people that could do anything. And I don't want to dox them. Somebody did something so egregious one time that they sent an MST survivor a letter demanding that they prove to them that it happened by submitting a piece of physical evidence to the VA. And I'm going to be honest with you. I lost my ever loving self. And I bypassed everybody, went into the director's office and said, no, this kid, no. I had to call that veteran's provider. Okay. Because I was freaking out because we couldn't get the letter back. It had went out. So I had to call the veterans. I looked up, I researched it. I mean, I got overtime when I shouldn't have gotten overtime, but I researched who their provider was. I called their provider. I told them what happened. I said, look, I need you to get in front of this. I need you to get in front of this because we will not lose another one because of this. Okay. I don't care about getting in trouble at that point in time because look, I'll just go to my congressman and say that, I'm not a bad person, so I reached out. I did the things that I needed to do. But yeah, I don't know. There's just there are horrible people in this job that have no business working here. And I think some of the changes coming up are good for that to change. Like some people should be let go. But my personal opinion is it's went a little far. And now people are so scared they're just doing random things without any purpose, meaning, or competency. They're just doing things. Hopefully not getting an error, or they're doing the wrong thing and they haven't gotten an error. So that's their litmus test for I'm doing the right thing, because nobody has said I'm not doing the right thing. Do they review it? Do they look it up? No, they don't. But yeah. So I just sleep apnea is subjective because the VA does not like how frequently it's being granted. That's it. Okay. I'm not going to even try. I'm going to just say, Rater, can you speak an example of weighing evidence? CR. Of weighing evidence at the Rater stage of the process, specifically when a claim is in balance. Okay. Well, I mean, you'd have to give me context. How well are raters prepared to rule in favor of the veteran? Well, it depends, right? Like, if I, the weighing of the evidence section typically happens as to whether or not an additional action should be taken, not necessarily granting, right? Because if I'm weighing the evidence, then you're mostly talking about TDIU for individual unemployability. You're talking about migraines at 50%. You're talking about doing a mental health manual upgrade, manual increase in those situations, right? There's no balance in that. It's hard to explain this, but I always side with the veteran if I can. So if I get, actually, let me give an example. So sleep apnea. I get a sleep apnea study from one of those nurse practitioners from Florida who everybody in my regional office knows their names, and all they do is they copy and paste the same stupid template, and they never mention the veteran or anything about their symptoms. They just give me a book report on how sleep apnea can be caused by whatever it is. But it doesn't mention how the veteran's sleep apnea is caused by that. It just mentions that it's possible. So I typically will look through the entire document, just looking for any one thing that will actually, please God, just talk about anything to do with the veteran. I'll take anything at this point in time. Just, you ever watch the Saturday Night Lives where they're like, just say the word a color, just say a color, and it's like you're just hoping that the nurse practitioner that the veteran paid money to will just say anything that can give you grounds to do it. That's kind of how, like, nothing's ever in equipoise. So that's balance. Nothing ever is. It never is. Yeah. But anyway. So Mark. Oh, wow. Mark, you've done this. Maybe I've missed it, but you've done it a lot. Same question. Okay. Fam man. Hi, Raider. You're wait, did I go back in time? Oh no, when higher level reviews stairs found and they have to find federal records. What records? Oh, okay. So for this one, what it means is that the duty to assist means that we cannot actually adjudicate your claim if we are missing specific records that could decide it. Typically, if we're missing specific records, that means they're going to deny you. And they can't deny you until such time that they have all the records. So that way they can confirm that the denial is not premature. Now, if I could grant you, then it wouldn't, I mean, it would still kind of matter, but it wouldn't matter to the point that they're kind of deferring you. You stay quiet. Hope that answers that question. Terry, are Nexus letters needed for direct and secondary service connection? Okay, Nexus letters aren't necessarily needed. Medical opinions are needed to grant, but you should have Nexus statements, some kind of linking of your, in-service event and your current, manifestation, diagnosis, and or symptom. It's fine. Flavor. It's fine. We only need 19 or 26. 26 likes. They're my 26 favorites, right? It's fine. You don't have to like it. I mean, I'm just giving you guys questions and answers. But yeah, so is it important or just a marketing scheme to make money for writers? I'm going to say that, okay, if a medical provider is not doing the medical opinion, then a medical nexus letter is only as good as what it's attempting to prove. So if you're attempting to prove lay symptoms, like I have, I don't have a diagnosis yet, but I have, nasal congestion, then that's something you can do, Terry. If you're trying to prove, like, how in my some of my videos I talk about, you don't have any in-service event, but maybe you're a combat veteran and you want to use the buddy statements to go in there. As long as you've organized it as my video has talked about, that's going to give you the highest likelihood probability, because we're only dealing with probabilities. There's no certainties, not even in presumptives, that you're going to get a specific outcome. And if anybody tells you that they can give you a specific outcome, they would like you to give them your money. And that's what they would like. So let me go here, because we've had quite a few of these naughty individuals give money. Part 2, the medical issue I was med-boarded for is now service-connected. If I get denied again for mental health, should I submit a supplemental to say it's secondary to the mental health issue? That's typically the process that you would go about. I do one, like, okay, just for my personal claims, I do one theory at a time, and then I pivot, right? Think about it like a mechanic. A mechanic doesn't know what's wrong with the car typically. I mean, they might have a good idea of it, and they'll try the first thing, and if that doesn't work, then they pivot to the next thing. It doesn't mean that the first try wasn't a good attempt, or that the evidence didn't kind of lead that way. It just means that, you just pivot to the next thing and you go down the list to see. So yes, this is an appropriate action. When you do your supplemental claim, you just refocus your evidence to be towards that second thing, towards that new nexus, that new theory for service connection that you're going for. Yeah, refresh your screen, dude. W.E. Wilson. How difficult is it to get a bowel incontinence rating secondary to IBS? That's going to be hard. You've spiked my interest on this, because what you're going to run into is you're going to run into 38 CFR 4.14 for pyramiding. If the symptoms are part of IBS to begin with, what would we rate that under? So that would be 7319 is for IBS. And then I guess we'd be fecal incontinence. Let me try incontinence. Sorry, I'm doing it in real time. So incontinence could be done under inflammatory bowel disease. So 7326, Wilson, I would look that up. See if you can go with that. Let me see where else. You could also do 7332 under rectum and anus impairment of sphincter control. That would probably be the most likely one. So yes, you would have to show impairment, like some kind of anatomy or physiological impairment of the sphincter, probably to get that secondary to IBS and have it not be included with IBS. I hope that answers that question. Additional money towards the chair. Thank you for teaching us. Okay, thanks, Tim in DC. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The chair is killing me. For the new chair, thank you. Was it Camille? Camille Moore. I'm sorry. Having a stroke. Thank you. Tim in DC. Besides my CUNE email, different question. I have a single claim, 12 conditions. Should I have submitted separately? No, you shouldn't have submitted separately. I would have not submitted 12 at once, but yeah, I wouldn't submit them separately. That makes it actually even worse if you were to submit them separately. I'm just going to be honest with you. No Bad Mojo. Seems like Thursday is a great night for live streaming. Thanks for providing your insight unfiltered. I'm off to work. Hey, thank you, No Bad Mojo. Appreciate all the donations. Bob W. became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. And not gonna help. Not even gonna try. I can't do names. I'm sorry. Not even doing it. No offense. I can't. All right. Back to the questions. I mean, it's insensitive of me. All right, let me see here. Where am I at? So I wish it showed me where I was beforehand. Okay, so I was with Terry. Okay, Mark. Love these. Thank you. Mark. Other Mark. Nope. Other Mark keeps giving that question. Okay. What do you think is the best way to organize files when submitting a claim? It honestly doesn't matter. If you want something to be seen by a rater, separately upload it individually. So if it's a group of 10 pages of documents that you would like to have separately rated or reviewed, then upload them separately. Like, have them be a separate submission. What you don't want to have happen is you have 3 very important nuggets of information that are hidden in 100-page documents. I would rather, separate out the nuggets as best you can and keep them completely separate. I did say anus. I did. I got SMCT awarded today, less than 60 days after submission. Guns, that is amazing. Congratulations on that. That is no small feat, my friend, because SMCT has to be approved by the VSCM manager. Anything over L has to be approved. So you had like 3 different people taking a look at that, and you managed to dodge all the bullets and ran through the gauntlet unscathed. Congratulations and enjoy your victory. Tyler, I have a general med CMP exam next week. 9 DBQs for increase and new claims. Appointment located inside Walgreens. Should I be concerned? No, because these companies, the doctors are fine. It's just they find locations closest to you sometimes and just rent out the space if you're in a kind of a weird location. So don't think anything bad about that. Zombie says hi. Hi, Zombie. What are you doing? Come on, get over here. Come on, Kent. Do an impersonation. Come on. Can my VSO view and tell me what is on a 21 dash something or another that the draw sends to the examiner writer for a new CMP exam? Yes. That's all I'm going to do with that. I submitted a supplemental claim and went to the CMP exam. Unfortunately, VES marked me absent. Okay, yes. Jeremiah, we already talked about this. Yeah. Felix, come here. Come sit down. You're going to have me lift some weights with you. Come on, do it. Too easy. All right. BRAM. I have a FOIA submitted last December for an exam and records and been on step 3 for a long time. Will it include CMP exams? It should. It'll depend on when the FOIA is pulled, to be honest with you. Too easy, Tyler. You've got to pump your claim up. You've got to do it. Come on, you've got to do it. Sorry. Can't stop. All right, Mark. Actually, let me go back here. So let me actually just address this. So if your FOIA is pulled before CMP exams are uploaded, then no, they will not be included. So it's a timing thing. Mark. Okay, Mark, you have hit that one. I answered it. Okay, D'Artagnan. Hello, Rater. You mentioned if while a veteran is waiting on a pending claim, they get rated 100% from a higher level review to continue the claim, so no other Rater can get their hands on it and poke the bear. Yeah, I want you to end it as soon as possible. Go to the exams because typically they won't hurt anything. But if you start making it to where the claim needs to be touched by more and more people, then what can happen is QMS errors, quality errors can be called, and they can have a difference of opinion because the QRT team of the rating side, or at least the VSR side, sometimes they can do that. So it would be poking the bear. I just say finish it out and finish out whatever's left and just do it. However, if you formally cancel a claim and it closed out, how can random raters be poking around in the veteran's file? If a QMS error is pulled, like if a QMS error gets pulled for any actions taken, even though you closed out the claim, you can still have a QMS error happen with the actions that were done. So keep that in mind. Alex, service connected for headaches caused by a blow to the head during service. Is it worth pursuing a TBI nexus? Okay, it can be. But the problem that sometimes happens, and it shouldn't be a problem. You can, but you're bringing migraines back to issue. You're bringing headaches, sorry. You're bringing headaches back to issue when you do this. So there is a chance, even though maybe unlikely, that the headaches can get downgraded. Arnold, come on, do it. Sitting here with you, lifting my weights. Best day of my life. Sorry, I can't. Can't stop. Brian M. Will you ever do a video on the different roles and positions within the VA benefit system? Brian, I will do it right now. So you've got VSRs. And VSRs, and I'll do this a little bit humorous, but I've already done this on the development side. So the development role. So you've got pre-D. So you've got different phases of the claim. So you've got pre-development VSRs, and they work on claims and getting exams. Everything up until, getting the exam and reviewing the exam and putting the exam to the rater. You also have VSRs that do non-rating things, like if you have education benefits, if you have anything, if you have a clothing allowance that you're claiming, anything that doesn't have to do with compensation benefits directly, those are non-rating VSRs. Same role, different job. You've got raters. They kind of, they're the GS-12 highest paid part of the pyramid there, or part of the process, part of the conveyor belt. And they just adjudicate claims. That's all we do, is they put claims in our queue. So every morning what happens is you get a certain number of claims put in your queue. Your coach assigns you those claims typically, and they'll assign them. Some coaches are lazy and they don't actually move the claims around to what, so it's fair, and you just get whatever you get. Okay. Now, gosh, sorry, that gave me the giggles. So what'll happen is the coach will assign you claims, and then you'll just knock them out as they come, as they come to you. This weird thing, like I watched this one. I'm not going to say them because I'm not that petty, but I watched this one claim company. I get amused. It's like my daytime soap opera is watching them interpret how the VA process works and then be wrong. But they were saying that sometimes the rater will just not do your claim. They'll put it at the bottom of their thing. I mean, that's true, but you still clear your queue every day. There's only so many days that a claim can sit in your queue before it starts getting on people's lists, to include the director of the RO's list of, why is this still here? I'm, like Pacific is giving me an email. Why is this still here? So you can't just ignore a claim. I find that funny that they think that you can, but okay. Anyway, I digress. And then you have the promulgators who, once the rater's done with the rating decision, it goes to them, and they're just checklist people. And they're up to a GS-10 pay scale, but they're a VSR. All they are is they're a VSR in an assembly line, and their job is to just make sure that your address is correct, your military service is correct, that your POA is correct, that everything that was claimed was answered. And then you have the authorizer, and the authorizer is going to take everything and just double check that everything's right. Now, some of them are good, and some of them suck so bad that they have no business doing the job. And they're the ones that assign you they pay you. So they're the ones that send out the payment notices and all that stuff. So that's a very broken way to discuss it. And I did have a rater reach out to me that used to be an authorizer, and they kind of scolded me for how I talked about them. So I'm going to say they do a lot more. They do a lot more. All right, Zombie, do you have any advice on an increase as a supplemental claim? Do not do this. Zombie, this is bad. This is not good. Do not do this. Do not do an increase as a supplemental claim. Number one, that's not what that form is for. And number two, it causes a lot of problems and pisses off your rater. Don't do that, please. If you're going to do an increase, do an increase. If you're going to, because a supplemental claim for something that is currently service connected, what you're saying when you do that is, I disagree with the prior rating decision. Now, when you do that, you have to tell us why you disagree with it. If you tell us nothing, you're letting us have the power of a drove for a minute. And it's not a good idea, because then we get to open up that prior rating decision and monkey around with it, where normally we wouldn't get to do that unless there was a clear and unmistakable error. right? And we're not going to go looking for a clear and unmistakable error in a prior rating decision if it has nothing to do with us. So the manual says to not do this, number one. The second thing is that if you do it, it'll make us have to do 2 separate rating decisions. You're making the rater work twice as hard for half as many points. And a non-happy rater is not an empathetic rater. So keep that in mind, zombie. Tread lightly. Aaron. Hey, Aaron. My doctors and physical therapists say my vertigo is secondary to my... Okay, and you lost me. Vertigo is not allowed to be secondary to anything. I need you to hear me, Aaron. Vertigo, if claimed secondary to something else, gets added to it. So it would be migraines with vertigo. There would be no additional symptoms. There would be no additional rating. And at that point in time, you're bringing your migraines into the equation. The rater will raise the issue of migraines to have them reviewed again because they have to be rated again because migraines with vertigo has to be adjudicated once again. So you have to, no, bad idea. Very bad. Don't do this. This is never, you cannot win this. There is not 1%. There's a -1% chance that you could win this. It can't. The manual is explicit for vertigo and insomnia can only be primarily service connected with no known cause. Once you tell them there's a cause, it causes a lot of problems. Don't do this. No touchy. Humble, $10. Thank you so much. Thank you for all. Thank you. Mike. Hi, Raider. You heard any updates about sleep? No, I haven't heard anything. Not one thing. Nope. And I think so if you want my 2 cents on this, if you want my 2 cents about mental health, tinnitus, and sleep apnea changes, say yes in the comments. If you would like me to give you my interpretation of what I think is happening, say yes. If not, I will move on. And 5. Okay. 2 people said yes, so I'll at least entertain that. All right. The moment that the VA opened up the discussion back to the community means that they didn't like something. Something needed to change. So whatever was proposed by the previous administration, the current administration does not like it. So there's some kind of change that they want to make, that they want buy-in from the community. But because they canceled a few of those appointments recently, they're not certain about what that change is. And they haven't been forthcoming with it. So it's deep inside somebody's in a think tank somewhere where somebody's trying to think of a different way. Like they did not either like the way my mental health was going to be granted because it made it a heck of a lot easier for a certain group of people to get 100% right. And I'm not going to say that the VA is against that, but I'm going to say that anytime that something's too easy to get the maximum amount or a significant amount, they like to dial that stuff back. Now, I have nothing to back that up. That's just me. And they might not like the sleep apnea, but I'm going to say that they probably do like the sleep apnea because they want to reduce the amount of people that are getting sleep apnea on its face. You've said no. I think that's how it's spelled. But they said no. So I'm not going to give any more answers because they said no. But somebody in the administration just disagrees with what was proposed previously. Some aspect of it. It could be a big aspect. It could be a small aspect. But some aspect of it was disagreed with. And that's just the honest truth. Because that's the only time that they reopen something back up to the forum of the public is when there's a disagreement with it or a change that they want to propose. Now, guys, I'm going to say that I've got about 15 minutes left in me. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to say that Tyler is awesome for gifting a membership. Craig, I think I already answered this one. Non-combat PTSD claim, additional stressor info was requested. CMP was ordered, went in development for 30 days post CMP. Since the CMP was ordered, Was stressor conceded? Stressor's conceded. So typically, in order to get an exam, the way the system's supposed to work is that the stressor needs to be conceded prior to the examination. However, if that wasn't done, then the VSR or the rater will send a deferral back to the VSR and say, hey, look, get your stuff together and get me, figure out whether this stressor is conceded so I can grant or deny. If you have development that's happening after the CMP examination, then that is the likely cause of it. Okay. Benny, the next live is this Saturday. Thank you for the donation, by the way, Craig. I appreciate it more than you know. Wilson, how does the VA feel about urgent care and online doctors for diagnosis? As long as they're qualified clinicians, we don't care. They have to be qualified. I know that somebody in the comments today, I think, was very upset at me. Actually, not me specifically. They were upset at the VA because an RN should be a clinician that could, their observations should count. And unfortunately, the VA does not consider that. So as long as the urgent care individuals are MDs, PAs, nurse practitioners, those diagnoses count. If they're a chiropractor and they do not have a medical doctorate of some kind or medical practice treatment, something I can look up on an NPI number to show that they're a solo provider, that they're a sole provider, that they can diagnose, right? Because that's a requirement. That's something I should probably say in a lot of different videos. I should say this, but yes, I know, Luna, soon. But what happens is they have to be able to diagnose in order for them to have their observations be counted by the VA. So when we do look up the MPI registry, they have to be a sole practitioner. That's one of the requirements. If they're not, then that means that they have to have a different clinician sign off for their work, and that doesn't count. Only in mental health for certain very specific instances, but other than that, no. Is it Char? I want to say it's Char. Okay. I'm 70% service connected for PTSD, 10 tinnitus, 40 secondary to fibromyalgia. I am filing for migraine secondary to PTSD and aggravated by my non-connected, but filing. No. That is not pyramiding, but that is not a sound strategy. So you want to file migraine secondary to PTSD. Let's put a period right here. And let's end that particular sentence right there. File migraine secondary to PTSD. Fair. It's crisp. It's simple. It's clean, right? Aggravation. I'm not. Cervical, spine, and IBS to what? It wouldn't be pyramiding. None of these pyramid with each other. So that's not what we're dealing with here. But we're dealing with probability of success, right? Sometimes there are multiple theories that can apply to a condition, and some are stronger inherently than others. So you have to, keep that in mind when you're claiming something, because you can pick a lower threshold and get denied, and then have to turn around for a supplemental claim in which you have to give even more evidence in order to prove, your point than it had you picked a stronger theory starting off the gate. So I don't know, maybe send me an email about this, because I'm interested from aggravated by. I don't quite understand what you're talking about here. So send me an email for that. And then let me come down here to where I think I am, because I double clicked on something and my computer just went wild. And then we've got Queen of Wands is a new member. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining the channel. We appreciate it. VSR Raider, doesn't matter. And then Guy gifted 20 Raider HQ memberships. Oh my gosh. Guy. Oh man. I just did math in my head, and that's significant, Guy. Thank you so much. Raiders don't do math, so you have forced me to do math, Guy, and I will take that. But thank you so much. I hope it was the Arnold impersonation. And then We've got Abel, who I can't click on for some reason. Okay. Any plans on other PTSD videos? Yes, Abel. I'm planning on doing uh I'm planning on doing a personal trauma video, and I'm planning on doing a MST video. But I'm also planning on, and I'm doing basically a video a day, but the problem that I'm having is that it's not enough, and like I want to go back to doing, showing you guys like how I did sinusitis, how I did rhinitis. I want to do that for the knees. I want to do that for the back. I want to do that for every single thing that you guys can think of, knowing full well that they're not going to be like 10,000 view videos, but for some people, they might actually help them, right? So go in and see, this is what the CFR means. This is the and or situation. You know, kind of circumstances for each condition. I want to sprinkle some of those in. I still have to do some theories of service connection. I know you guys want me to do the PTSD stuff, and I am planning on it. Those ones whenever I feel a little bit better, because what I don't want to have happen is I'm not feeling so good and I misspeak a little bit. I don't want to take that from you. So far, Yves, I'm just going to say Yves. I don't care anymore. No, actually, because I'm not big enough for anybody to care yet. So, yeah, I mean, the channel it's only been going on for a month, guys. So, I know, Ray, I know it's going to happen. The TDIU will happen. It's on the list, and like I said, I've done. You got to think, guys. The channel's only been going since like, August, July, like 28th, I think, little over a month. Okay, so I'm putting it down. And Mr. Ray, thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Ray is awesome. Look at my 2680 form filled out from the doctor. All my is all over the place. -1 service. Yeah. See, and that's the problem. You guys got to proofread everything that's done. Everything that's done. People are human. Contrary to popular belief, even doctors are human, and they sometimes say stuff that's not right, inaccurate, crazy, absolutely crazy. Now, I'm gonna look up here. Keith, I'm just pulling this one out of my hat. Yes, you need a supplemental claim. Anytime you were denied for anything historically, you need to file a supplemental claim for it. Why not, Felix? How about do videos on how you would rate a sample claim file with evidence? You know what? Honestly, this is a great question, Felix. I would like to, if you guys had stuff that you wanted me to go over in real time, I mean, I might actually do like a video section on that doesn't count towards my educational videos. I would redact all the information and just say, hey, look, based upon this right here, kind of like how I did the higher level review video for that claim company that put in all that gibberish and nonsense, I would kind of maybe be willing to do that for higher level reviews. I don't know about general claims process because I could potentially get in trouble for that. But if you talked about like higher level reviews and what was like the focus should be for your higher level review, I could talk to you about that and weigh the pros and cons. So if you wanted to talk about higher level reviews, I could do that, but I can show you my process. Hold on just a second. I show you my process. I can actually, I might actually do a video on my process. Bear with me for just a second here. Let's download this. Download. Bring up. And then let's share screen. Let me make sure that I'm not doxing the heck out of myself. Sign out. Yes. Okay. So if you guys want to just see this, if you guys find this to be valuable, let's just go here and let's just, yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. And let's go ahead and share our screen window. This window, share. And then let's remove this and add this. Okay. So this is basically the process that I use whenever I'm writing in a claim, if you really want to know. So like what I do, this is my worksheet that I use when I write a claim. So if you filed for like ED, you filed PTSD, you filed for left knee. So what I look for is, and this is just how I do it and how I trained other people to do it. These are the things that matter for me. The theory of service connection. So what I do is I write out every single theory, that could apply based upon your specific circumstances. And then, like this one can only be direct, right? And it helps me to kind of make sure I don't miss anything. So this could be direct, secondary, but not due to Tara, right? Because this is likely a knee strain. So if it was like left knee strain. And then element 1 is the current diagnosis. Is there a current diagnosis? Well, if so, then what I would do, and it seems really weird, is I just do red light, green light, right? Like, oh, he doesn't have a diagnosis of PTSD. And the reason why I do it this way is because that way I don't lose my place. It's really weird because raters who don't have a system to keep them to where they can go through and get distracted by something, like somebody comes up and asks you a question, if they have to start over, then they're more likely to cause an error. So what I typically do is if you've got 3 greens, then then it's a grant, right? Element 3 is the medical opinion from the doctor, and or if it's a presumptive condition, then element 2 is the in-service event, or depending on what theory. For Tara, the element 2 would be asbestos, whatever it is. But yeah, so I don't know. This is my process. I look for the intent to file date. That goes into it. What's the date of claim? What's their RAD, their release from active duty +1 date, to make sure that I'm giving them the proper effective date. I need these placeholders here to make sure that I don't miss something, because this is a short-term memory killer, this job. The more complex, this is why raters like claims that are 1 to 5 contentions long, because we don't have to hold a lot of stuff in our brain. But if you look over here, like I keep for liberalizing law to see if I can give an earlier effective date. If you were diagnosed for let's say type 2 diabetes in 1999 and you get granted presumptively under Agent Orange exposure, I can give you an earlier of effective date of a year. See, not all raters have this particular law and regulation, this CFR here, to keep as a guideline for themselves, right? So they don't actually have it there. And then I have the chronic conditions under 38 CFR 3.309A listed down here. So that way I don't miss that theory of for service connection, right? Not all raters do that. And here's PTSD. PTSD that was, if it was diagnosed before 7/8/2021 and it was due to fear-based, right? You were granted for fear-based, but you were diagnosed before this date of 7/28/2021, you can technically get a 1 year earlier effective date. Not at this time, William. They're not hiring. You'll be able to go on to usajobs.gov and see. It can be, but let me tell you, once you do this job, you can never do anything else because it's production based. So you need to get 10 widgets done. Once you do 10 widgets, you're done for the day. Quality and production. I can't get any better at my job because I have quality people that don't know what the hell they're doing and they can't read. Half of them can't read. Call an error saying I did a bad job when I didn't, and I have to fight it. And it's just a weird thing. But yeah, so this is what I use in order to actually like, is the veteran dead? That seems like a stupid question, but it actually happens more than you know. There's a process for if the veteran died during the claims process. Um, Joe asked a question. What did Joe ask? That was cool. Let me go down here. Let me find Joe's question. What did Joe ask? Don't let them times and dates folks intimidate. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy, for knowing my hate for the dates and times people. I don't see Joe's question, but if I come across it, I will do it. Let me go here. Looks like we've got more of donations here. So we've got Bebop Styles gifted 5 Raider HQ After Dark memberships. Thank you, Bebop Styles. I can't like, oh my gosh. And yeah, I told you guys not to do this, right? This was to make up for the last time, not to give, not to help me out here. Darren, wow, thank you. Always appreciated, never expected or required. I mean that, guys. And if you had a question here, please. I didn't see Joe's question. Mike Shepard. Denied due to service treatment records do not contain complaints, diagnosis, and/or treatment, even though I did find them in my National Guard treatment records. Okay, actually, Mike, that might be a good idea to do a higher level review, because if you can find them in service, then what happened was they didn't pull the records for that particular period of National Guard service. So yes, I might suggest a higher level review on that one. All right, guys, it's past my Dane time. I have 2 Great Danes, and they are very, very wanting to go outside. So this little impromptu, I will do another live stream on Saturday. Please, guys, don't. And I'm not just saying that to egg you guys on, but you guys don't need to donate for these. Okay. I'm freely giving out the information. I don't need incentive. The ad revenue is good enough. Okay. I make you guys watch the ads, so that's bad enough. At Joe, good question. I'm going to find this question. Where is Joe? Is it Jordan or is it Joe? You guys are making me weirded out about this. Wait. Did I just pass Joe's question? It's jumping around Joe's question. Do you know any website that tracks the percentage of successful claims for each of the VSO? No. Number one, because VSOs just submit they submit your documents for you, but they don't have like a fee agreement that we could track. Right? You might be able to track, and I don't know this, but you might be able to track accredited claims agents because they have a fee agreement. So they're like, that would be tracked as to whether or not they, did a successful thing. But no, there's no batting average for VSOs currently. But anyway, thank you all so much for attending the impromptu live stream and comedy hour. For sitting here with you has been so amazing. I cannot stress it enough. As the governor of California, I feel that we have learned together about how to witness and perform the claim process. Come on, do it. Oh, sorry. But anyway, that's about all I got. Let me see here. Anything else? And then thank you for the $5. I appreciate it. You are awesome too. Everyone is awesome. But if I don't end the stream now, I won't end the stream. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you, all that you do. We're going to just keep putting out videos. I'm not going to guarantee what's happening tomorrow, but I will be putting out a video tomorrow, the next day, and I'll put out a video for the Saturday live stream too, in addition. But anyway, that's about all I got. Raider out, guys.